Hey, what's up, y'all? Sarah here. So, in this video, I'm going to be talking about equity research interview advice. If you're looking for a job in equity research or even portfolio management in 2020, I used to be a equity research analyst at Lehman Brothers. At the time, the term was equity research associate because I wasn't a full analyst, but I think, a lot of people understand equity research analyst better. That was really the nature of the work that I was doing, so it wasn't my technical title, okay? But I analyzed equities and did models at Lehman Brothers, okay? So here are some interview tips if you're going up for a job in equity research. And you should believe me because I got a job like doing this. Like I'm not like some career coach that's never done this, okay? I've done this myself. Okay. And it was a good firm and made good money at it. Anyways, number one, understand the role. So I know that a lot of people have questions about equity research and they ask me on this channel. Go ahead and just post up those questions to this channel. I'm going to be maintaining a commitment to make a little bit more content on equity research and portfolio management on this channel in the future. So you can put your questions here. But the only thing is like, I always get these questions on my channel like, oh my gosh, like I have an interview in 3 hours. Tell me, what am I supposed to do to prepare? It's like, understand I have 4 kids and I have a full business and then I have social media presence to maintain as well. So like, give me a month to respond. I will respond, but just, and that's the same thing goes for like if you email me that you want like my equity research models, sample models or whatever, like I have people that like email me, then a week later they email me again. It's like, it's not that I wouldn't feel the same way, but I'm sorry, but I do these videos for free. I don't like ask, I don't charge for my advice, you know what I'm saying? And so this is not something that is part of my business. And so my business and my family have to come first. I'm sorry, it's just how it is. Um, but anyway, so like understand a few things about the role and know what you're getting into. For example, the hours. Like some people say, what are the hours you have to work? First of all, like never ask this question in an interview, okay? If you want to get like eliminated immediately as a candidate, then ask the question of what are the hours required for this job position, okay? Never, ever, ever ask this question in a job interview. Now, the hours, like, just be ready to work all the time, and if you can't, they'll fire you. Like I was part of this culture and I participated in this and I understood. I don't know if I really understood though before I was getting into it, because then once I got into it, I was like, I don't like this. Like up at 6:30, in the office by 7:30, got to meet with the team before the markets open. I used to want to go to aerobics class. I was like really into working out when I was in my like late 20s, early 30s. There was a time when I was like really, really, really into it. And I was like, I can't go to my aerobics class anymore. Like, and then you stay until whenever they want to let you go. And by the way, you absolutely like have no control over it, right? Like, they're not big on letting you work from home because they have to like VPN you in. I don't know. This was maybe, what was it, like 2008? I left Lehman. Like this was about 10 years ago or more. So there maybe technology has changed, but I think even with the banks that I notice I do business with that are my clients, like the people from the big banks or the big brokerages, like they're not they're not really eager to have people working from home. They're just not, because it's a less secure environment. They have less control over it. So don't be thinking that you're going to be like tapping out at 6 and, they're going to be happy about it. They're not. Like you can't leave until they tell you. Period. Okay? You're not going to have control over your life. So like if you're married, if you have kids, whatever, or you have a significant other, whatever the term is nowadays that people want to use, understand that those people are not going to be happy. And no matter how much money you make, they'll never really be happy with it. Okay. It's just really like an unhappy thing. And eventually, like for me, I was unhappy working these hours. And even at that, like I didn't have kids, I didn't have Antonio at that point, like I was still unhappy. Okay. So this is a high FaceTime job. It's not results oriented. It's not like, oh, you got the models done in this amount of time. Great, you could go on your way. Or like, it's not even like, oh, you made a great call. Like you said sell and the market said buy, and it turned out that the stock tanked right after, the earnings announcement, and like you made a great call. So like now you can slack off and have like a normal life and work 8 hours a day. No, there's no kind of like results orientation with this. It's a busy work job. It's maintenance modeling. Like you model, you're going to model to your teeth. You're going to model until your teeth turn green, and that's it. And then you're going to model some more. Okay. It's about the action. It's not about the results in this kind of a profession at this point. I don't know. Maybe if you get to a point where you get established and maybe you have a little bit more control over stuff, or maybe you just work for a really cool person. But my impression of like the sell side analysts that I was working for, not the specific one, I don't want to say anything about the person I was working for specifically, but like, what I saw and what I've seen and what I've heard about sell side analysts is that they basically look at the analysts under, like they look at their associates like you're their towel person, right? Like you're their personal butler or maid, okay? Like that's how they look at you. The pay. At the time when I was in this, the pay was starting at like 80 to 150. I think that's bonus all in. I think that's probably as high as it goes before you get to be senior level, unless you're senior level. So I think you need to get promoted if you want to make more money than that. Eventually you make a lot, which is why everyone wants these jobs, but you've got to get through the analyst pool, and you've got to, or the associate pool or whatever, right? And then you've got to get to that top echelon, and not too many people make it, just because it is so demanding, and it's very limited. Like there's only a certain amount of jobs, like that you can't have, like an investment bank is only going to have so much sell side coverage of certain sectors. Like with consumer goods, right? Like consumer staples, there may be different people, like different gradients. And so there may be like duplication within that sector. But like, if you're covering like shipping stocks, for example, or, like for example, like energy, solar energy, right? Like there may be many different, or medical device, like biotech, pharmaceuticals, like all that. There's many, many different gradients within that. But sometimes if it's a small sector, there's no duplication. And so like the competition is literally like just for those one or two analysts. And even within the industry, like there's not a million paper and packaging industry analysts. Like there's maybe 3 or 4 people. So you see what I'm saying? The competition is very, very high. And so in other words, like if you look at what your pay rate is per hour, you're probably making the equivalent of like a typist. Like you're probably making like $11 an hour, given how many hours they're going to have you work. So you should really think about this. Like what really is going to be the value per unit of my time? And do I really want to be doing this? Like, do I really want to be sitting there modeling until the cows come home for $150,000 a year? Yeah, the payout could be pretty good later on down the line, but am I really going to be getting there? I don't know. What kind of company is it? Do you want to work for like a smaller independent place or a larger place? Where do you want to work? What kind of culture do you want? Now, I'll just tell you this, and that kind of relates to what kind of company. I'm just going to tell you that these are like not generally the warmest, friendliest people. Like these are not the kindergarten teachers, okay? These are like very, very sharp, direct, to the point. This is a Wall Street job, okay? And so it's not just a matter of them being like kind of hard-nosed or like results oriented or whatever. They're actually kind of mean. Like when you do something wrong, these are not the kind of people to pat you on the back and say like, "Hey, we'll go get them. We'll get them the next time." Like there's none of that. It's a negative work culture. It is a negative and toxic environment, and people are arrogant. Look, I'm not calling out anybody by name here. I'm not calling out any company by name. I'm telling it like it is in this industry. And that's one of the reasons I was really just not a fit for it. And you've got people that are arrogant as heck. And to me, I think there's no reason for it. Like my friend he's a cop, and like when he was going through the academy, he had to get mace sprayed in his face. Like the dude literally had to get mace sprayed in his face, and then like someone jumped on him in a dark shed and he had to defend himself. Like the Navy SEALs, like they put like the Navy SEALs, like they go out in San Diego Bay and they like put them in the bay to go swim with like no wetsuit on, okay? And like people get hypothermia. Like they literally like the instructor's got to pull them out the water, okay? Like these people like would be having the right to be arrogant. I'm sorry, but like I just don't see why, just because you made some, like a lot of times it's just luck. Like just because you made some good call on something, like you have the right to be arrogant, please. I mean, this is probably why I didn't work out in the industry. I was just like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get this, okay? The only people more arrogant than the financial hedge fund, like the hedge fund managers, the successful portfolio managers, the equity research analysts, like they're not nice. They're not nice people. The only people more arrogant than them are like the surgeons or like the big lawyers that make like $5 million a year. This is just how it is. If it's not for you, this work culture is not for you, stop. If you want to be in finance, but you don't like the negative work culture and the arrogance, then go be a financial advisor. Much nicer people. Stereotype and generalization, but like I said, I'm not calling out anybody by name, so the other thing is, understand this. If you're choosing a sell-side equity research job, understand that it's way harder to get to the buy side, and everybody wants to get to the buy side because it has so much more cachet. It's so much easier to get to the buy side from the buy side. It's not easy to get to the buy side from the sell side. So if you want to get to the buy side and be a portfolio manager, you really should be a buy side equity analyst. It's harder to get those jobs. It's way easier to be a sell side analyst, but then to go get a job managing real money, not so easy. Like you're going to encounter the challenge at some point, okay? Like whether it's initially when you're trying to get the buy side analyst job, or a few years down the line when you're trying to get the sell side, when you're going from the sell side trying to get the buy side job. Because what happens is they type you. Like you're going to get typed as a sell side equity research analyst. And everybody knows that an equity research analyst has managed no money, like has never had to deal with the real consequences of $1 of real money being lost because of a call that they made. And so it's very theoretical, maybe, a little bit more creative, or, it's a paper kind of a career. And portfolio managers know that. So that's what I would say. The other thing is, as in any job interview, the tip is to figure out who writes the check and who influences the decision. People tend to be very misguided about that. I guess we just get like so kind of feeling lucky that we even got an interview. And so a lot of times people can be very like not thinking too hard about, well, who is the person I'm really talking to? If you're talking to an influencer or someone that may have a say in the decision but doesn't make the decision, then your point should be to probe them, because they're probably going to be more yielding of information to you. Once you get to the decision maker, like you're not really there to gather information as much from the decision maker as you are to impress. So if you have a few rounds of interviews, but not with the decision maker, with the lower down, like kind of associates, other associates or the lower down analysts, like pump them for information and then use that as the ammunition once you get in front of the big person. So the second thing is like actually have original ideas. So I will just preface this by telling you that nobody on the sell side and no one who does equity research, I don't think actually has any original ideas themselves. And I mean, I just have seen so many people that like they go and they copy what other research analysts say. Like, like you want to write a blog for like a portfolio manager, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay, well, here are these 3 like Bloomberg articles that some other analysts wrote, like just synthesize these into a blog and we'll publish it as our own opinion. And I'm like, I mean, of course we cite it at that point, but it's like, I mean, I just think this is a whole industry of like somebody coming up with some kind of an idea and then like everybody just copying a permutation of it. That's honestly how I perceive the whole industry. So if you can show people that you actually have talent, and don't just like say you have talent, but actually like have models. And again, like I have models, I can email them to you if you want, give me some time, like I said, but my email will be down below in the summary. But like, understand that what like you're going to say is is what everyone else is probably going to say. If you're going to read like Seeking Alpha, which I think you should read the analyst opinions. I think you should read whatever research is published on the company. Absolutely. But I don't think you should say what everyone else is saying. Like, actually have interesting ideas, have interesting models. Don't just talk like, oh yeah, I want a model. And then it's like, well, what models do you have? Oh, I don't have any models. You know, like make a, like a portfolio sample of like 3 buys, 3 sells, and 1 neutral. Have a macroeconomic view. Know all the major economic indicators, like what's the S&P at, what are interest rates at, what are inflation at. Like, there's no excuse for you not having this information when you go into the interview. You may as well not go to the interview if you're going to go to the interview without having memorized, understood, and be ready to interpret these indicators. Use flashcards if you need to memorize them, but don't go into the interview without this information. So number 3, have questions prepared for them. So I'll give you 3 good questions. Why is this role available? Did somebody quit? Was somebody fired? Or was it just recently created? You want to know this, because if they are like firing people right and left, or if they recently fired somebody, you absolutely want to know that information, because you want to know what they did wrong. If it was just like that they're creating a job, then you want to know that too, because that shows that they're probably not like willing to just blend the existing position into a job that someone from the company already has, because a lot of times companies do that to save money. You know what I'm saying? So if they're not doing that, if they're not just blending it or giving these responsibilities to somebody else, if they think it's important enough to create a role and give it its own responsibilities, then I think you would really want to know, like, why is this so important to your company? Oh, well, we are the leader in this or that. And then you understand more about what the position is that they're in. Or, oh, well, we want to, or, so for example, you're going up for a job interview at like a biotech, to be a biotech associate, research associate. And you're like, well, why was this role created? And they say, well, we created it because we want to be the #1 biotech research company in the world. Oh, okay, that's interesting. See, now you understand them better, okay? So you understanding strategically what your role is going to be in the overall growth of the organization. Why is this role available? Did someone quit? Were they fired? Whatever. You also want to know if they quit, because you want to know why they quit. Here's another question. The person who you've seen do the best in this role, what did they do that made them the best? Now, this is a smart, results-oriented question. It shows leadership. It shows that you're the kind of person that's always looking to improve yourself and make yourself better. Don't assume that they've actually thought this out. It's going to help them to understand the role too. And like, well, what kind of person am I actually looking for, right? So it's a very good question to ask. Did I turn out, and here's like kind of a more risky question. At the end, you say, did I turn out being really different from what you thought I would be based on my resume? So this is like, this accomplishes a few things. First of all, it allows you to ask for feedback, but not in a direct way. So like, I mean, if you're really bold, you could say something like, hey, look, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 is the best. How well do you think I did today? And then you're like really kind of about facing them and asking them like bluntly for their opinion. You could say that, or you could say, well, how do you think I'm different? How did I turn out to be different from what you thought I was going to be based on my resume? First of all, you want to know if there's something wrong with your resume. And they'll tell you that if you ask this question that way, they'll tell you. It'll kind of come out in their answer. But the second thing is you kind of want to know what they think of you in terms of, are they more or less impressed? And if they tell you that they were surprised by how you turned out better than the resume, then that's good, and you should continue to like emphasize whatever reason it was that they said and like go on that path. If it turns out like on the bad side, like if they say something like, well, from your resume, I thought you had a lot more modeling experience than you did. Then it turns out you do. Whoa, like now that's not such a good thing to hear in an interview, but the good news is that you're willing to address it in the interview because you're having the conversation, whereas once you leave the interview, forget it. Like, I'm all about getting it out in the open during the interview, because once you leave, they're going to be talking to other people and you're just not even going to, there's no hope at that point. Okay, so number 4, be prepared for their questions. They are all asked the same questions. Remember, these are not creative people. They're probably asking the same questions as they asked 10 years ago when I was interviewing for this position. So, Here's how to respond to some of the typical questions. Why do you want this job? I want this job. And don't say like, because I'm passionate. I'm passionate about equity research. I'm passionate about stocks. Like, so isn't everybody. Hello? So isn't everybody going up for these job positions? Okay. It doesn't separate you. And also, like, what the heck is that? There's nothing that's relevant to me about your passion. Like, for example, I'm like a marketing person, right? And I do blogs. Okay. And so like I charge people $500 a blog. So I'm talking to you about, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to pay $500 for the blog. And I said, no, but I'm passionate about blogging. You should definitely hire me for this. I'm passionate. I'm so passionate about blogging. It's like, well, what is the tangible result to me as a result of your passion? Like, does that mean you're going to have like awesome citations? You're going to have awesome, like, you're going to put awesome graphics in it. You're going to think of awesome things. You're going to make it rank first in Google. Like, those are the tangible benefits of the passion. The passion is just, it's like saying like, oh, my favorite color is blue. It's a feature of yourself, right? But what is the benefit to the employer of having someone with that passion, okay? Why do you want that job? Just don't say I'm passionate. Get the benefits down, okay? There should be 3 benefits. If you don't know the benefits, I mean, I don't know either, okay? But talk to somebody, like figure it out, gain self-awareness somehow. Tell me about your background is another question. So when someone asks you this, they don't really mean recite your whole resume to me, although sometimes they'll say it that way. They'll be like, okay, so start at the beginning, tell me about your resume. What you want to do is you want to focus them on the more relevant topics during your answering of this question. Like, you don't want to recite your whole resume back because, first of all, they're not going to pay attention. Remember, nobody pays attention for like more than 9 minutes. I'm saying this as my video is now like 22 minutes long. Oh, well, but you're still tuned in by this point if you're listening. But anyways, I mean, this is like an awesome video, I have to say. I'm saying some pretty good stuff, so I hope you've been listening this whole time. Anyways, tell me about your background. I would answer it like this. Well, as you can see on my resume, I've held a variety of different positions, in corporate finance. The one thing that's the really relevant that I think we should focus on my resume is the fact that I recently had an internship and I worked under one of the best analysts in the consumer discretionary sector, and I covered these many stocks, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So in other words, like, don't fall for it when they say like, walk me through your whole resume, unless you have a documented and sequential history of like success working in a sell side position, in which case, like in an equity research position, in which case, like, I don't even know if they would ask that question. What they're really asking and looking for information about is, why did you leave one job to get to the next? Because people don't like job hoppers. They want to know that they're going to be hiring somebody who's not just going to be out the next day. And you want to emphasize that when you talk about, if you do discuss your jobs in sequence, you want to emphasize that these were all made for like really good reasons. Or if they weren't made, if it was a bad decision, just say it. Be like, look, I left my job because I didn't get along with my boss. It was a dumb decision. I would have done it differently, but what I learned was work things out with your boss instead of just leaving the job. That's what I learned. Like, just like say it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you made a bad decision, say it. Where do you want to go from here is another question that they say. Hey, don't say the buy side. Keep in mind, like, they themselves wanted the buy side but never got there, and that's why they're still on the sell side if you're interviewing for a sell side analyst job. So like, if you say, oh, I'd eventually like to work at a hedge fund, and oh, I'd eventually like to go be a portfolio manager, and no. If you're interviewing for a sell side job, you probably should say, I want to be a sell side research analyst eventually. Because, by the way, that's probably where you'll end up more likely than in other places, because, like I said, really hard getting to the buy side from the sell side. Anyways, have an answer for that though. Number 5, be human. Now, remember that, like I said, these are kind of like antisocial-ish people. You know, these are kind of like factual, modeling, obsessed, very data-driven kinds of people. This career tends to attract those kinds of people. And so these are not like effusive, talkative, talk about your feelings, like it's the first day of kindergarten. Are you cranky or sad? Let's draw a grumpy face. Okay, like it's not like this. It's like, you're going to have to try hard to understand them because they're not going to make it easy with their words. You're going to get a lot of poker faces. So you're going to have to learn to interpret body language. I could do another video on this. If you have questions, you want to know more about this, you could ask me. I'm going to be blogging about this in the future, so you should probably be following me on all my social media and my LinkedIn. Definitely, if you're not following me on LinkedIn, you should be following me there. The other thing is like be human yourself, like connect with them on LinkedIn. You know, don't just be boring. Like have one or two maybe like interesting things you could say about your background and about yourself if they ask you, to show that you're kind of a cool person that they wouldn't mind being trapped on a plane with, because you have to go visit like 3 companies in rural Missouri. Like, you know, the fact that you were a boy or a Girl Scout may kind of reassure them, like, well, if we get lost in the woods, they're going to know how to use a compass. I don't. And then also I would say like send a handwritten thank you note. I know it's a pain and like everybody kind of rolls their eyes when they say it, but I send great thank you notes. I send them in the mail a lot of times, and I always get comments back on them that people really appreciate them, because it's a rare thing. Nobody really takes the time to do it, but you could really set yourself apart. And you know, it'll take a little extra time, but it's not going to be too expensive either. It'll just cost you the stamp. Oh my gosh, so this video is like 25 minutes long. So thank you all for watching. I would really love it if you could subscribe to my channel and stay with me. You know, I make these videos a lot of times for people who are in like the emerging markets or in countries where like the economy isn't that good. And I know a lot of you are trying to get out of a situation. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And, you know, let me know what else you want to hear about. And I really hope that you'll stay with me on my channel. Thanks for watching.